What's going on, guys? I'm so excited to have my boy Derek. I've known him since high school, and I think we've known each other now over 20 years. I won't say exactly how long because then people will know that we're old. My first memory of Derek, number one, he was a cool kid. He's still cool, but he was super popular. The dudes were super cool with him. The girls loved him. I actually worked with a girl at Foot Action at the mall. I don't know if I ever told you this. Bro, when she found out I was your friend, I won't say her name, she was just like, yo, if you could just rub his hand and come hug me. I'm like, yo, chill. Like that's how she was with you, bro. I almost feel like I got the job because she was my manager at Foot Action because I told her I knew you. Real talk, true story. You didn't even know that.
When you were working there, I exactly know who you're talking about. I did not know she was your manager, though.
Yeah, she was my supervisor. But either way, I'm just really glad I have you here. D, give me the first memory you have of me.
Well, it's a combination of things that they have. When I first met you, I actually came at you the wrong way. And then I have this fond memory of when we actually became friends. You and Ralph, the first time I actually met you, and you were with Ralph, and you guys were walking down Bowie Hall, and I kept on hearing Boricua, 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 and I was like, whoa, that's got it. I am Puerto Rican, so what's going on? So I turned around, and you and Ralph were pumped. Ralph was like, Boricua, and you're like, Boricua, and I was kind of thrown off by it because I came from another side of town where there was no Puerto Ricans. So when y'all said that, I kind of just gave you the nod and turned back around. And I wasn't having a great day that day either, right? And I remember your face. You gave me this look like, this man just gave me the nod. And I was like, and I didn't mean it in any way, but then comes back to summer school, which is something that we both lived in. Um, I see this kid in the front of the bus making everybody laugh. In fact, when he got out the bus, he was still making everybody laugh. And I was like, man, there's something about this guy. And we kind of made eye contact and you walk down the bus. This is maybe 3 days into summer school. And you walk down to the end of the bus and you start talking to me. And one of the things that you told me, which is so crazy, you started singing I Got the Hookup, the Masterpiece song in Spanish, which I still remember the hook. I'll never forget it. Yo tengo el gancho, ladra si me anda. And I was like, this guy's going to be the man. He's too funny. And ever since then, we've been boys.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that music has always been a part of my life. I don't know if you know this. When I was in Puerto Rico for 1 year in 7th grade, I moved directly from LA. And my Spanish, I didn't dominate my Spanish. I still don't, but I definitely couldn't dominate it then. And I'm there, this kid who speaks Spanglish. And I remember that, I was always a little chunky kid. And this kid right next to me in the school bus, this is like the third day into school, they give him a brown bag. Like, mira, Willy, tu cumpleaños. And when he opens, it was a bra. He was a big guy too. And I was like, yo, I got to figure something out. Because, bro, I was never a fighter. I can't run that fast. I'm not into sports. Yo, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. How can I survive this? And it's interesting how our survival mechanism kicks in because what I did was our bus driver, his name was Ruben. I'll be honest, he smoked weed and the windows were tinted. Only in Puerto Rico, right? And they played reggaeton. First time I had ever heard of reggaeton, bro. Up to that point, I had heard of hip hop but I never heard that. I'm talking about like playero, that off-key scene reggaeton, bro. And I remember going home that night and I wrote 2 lines in Spanish. And you heard me say it. It was like, yo canto lo que canto, digo lo que digo, venga de Puerto Rico. So I wrote those 2 lines, right? And after that, I had nothing else to say. It was 4 bars. After that, I had nothing else to say. So I started rapping in English, but because they didn't speak English, they were like, hey, bro, I was saying nothing, bro. I was like, A, B, C, D. Yeah, I was just making things up. So anyway, I guess me and buses and being funny was just a way of surviving. So what I want to talk to you about today is I know you were in sports. And I always saw you in school like, yo, this guy has a lot of confidence. But then later on, as you and I got to hang out, I also got to see that just like me, you had your struggles. So I kind of want to unpack a little bit, if you don't mind. Give us a little bit about your background in sports and how confidence kind of rolled into that. And then from there, I'm going to kind of roll over into confidence and how you struggle with even criticism.
It's when it comes to sports, there's a huge double-edged sword when it comes to acceptance. So if you're good at sports, everybody attracts you. The coaches talk good about you. If you're bad at sports, then that doesn't happen. You give everybody water and that's all that happens. But for me, and I was fortunate enough to be athletic enough to be in multiple sports and to be good at it. And that really gave me a good following and confidence because not only I didn't have to believe in myself because other people were believing in me. And that gave me kind of like a push, like, wow, this guy really thinks. And when enough people start telling you, that's when that ego factor starts coming in, and they could be a good. That's another double-edged sword as well. Ego can be good, ego could be bad. Um, but what it did is, cause everybody, lack of better words, gassed me up.
Mm.
uh, it gave me the confidence to want to talk to people, to be around people. And I think that helped me a lot when I was in high school, because I wasn't always a confident person. It was only after I started doing sports where confidence actually grew in me.
So let me ask you this: I know you were in boxing. You were also in martial arts like Taekwondo, or I don't know, karate. All right.
Goju.
Okay. Bro, I never even heard of that. See, that's how ignorant I am about sports. It's called Goju.
Goju. Goju. Goju. It's a Japanese karate. It's one of those. So Taekwondo is like 80% or 90% legs, 10% hands. Goju really was like a great transition when I started boxing as well, because it's 50-50. You have to be just as good with your hands as you have to be with your legs. And I think that was a good transition. But yeah, Nisei Goju-Ryu is the exact name for it. A lot of people don't know it, but it is a Japanese karate, and I feel when it comes to combat, the Japanese really got it down right.
Here it is. You're an athlete. You know how to defend yourself. So, you got that confidence. Ladies are loving you. There's, like you mentioned, there's not a lot of Puerto Ricans in our school. So just naturally being Puerto Rico just kind of stands out. Tell me a little bit about, you once mentioned something to me that I loved. With confidence came ego, and with ego comes delusion. Unpack that for me, being raised in a Hispanic home and a Latino home, how that looks like, and how criticism, when people would give you criticism, you once mentioned, hey, when people would criticize me, I feel like they were against me. How does that all work out?
In sports, when you're good at something, and I hate to keep saying this over, it makes me sound, I'm trying to be as humble as possible, but when you're good at something in general, especially if you have a coach around you, they're gonna feed confidence into you until it's almost a delusion. Um, because in all honesty, for you to achieve your goals in anything, or to be great at anything, you almost have to be delusional. But the only thing that came with that was, because I was delusional in my confidence, I was weak in my soul. So when somebody would criticize me, I would take that as you completely against me, because everybody would say, Derek, you're so good at this, you're so good at that. Even if they gave me something that exactly that I was doing wrong 100%, I would literally take that as an attack. I would come offended, and I would come for attack, because in my mind, I was so delusional in that I was thinking, how can anybody tell me I'm doing anything wrong? Right? And that really held me back. Now, the delusional of confidence helps you in a way in life, because you could achieve a lot of things, but that insecurity could also hold you back. It almost made me think that, how dare anybody speak to me in this way? And that actually became a downfall later in my life.
So with criticism, we know that there's good criticism and bad criticism. At this point, you don't know the difference. Good criticism is bad criticism, and bad criticism obviously is bad criticism.
Mhm.
In your home or in your community, did you ever hear criticism before, during sports, and how was that criticism maybe playing a factor into the ego or the way you reacted to it?
As you know, in Puerto Rican culture, your uncles are going to be your worst enemy. It doesn't matter what you do. You could be a professor, you could be a brain surgeon, and you'll be like, they'll ask you, "What kind of surgeon are you?" I'll be like, "A brain surgeon." Ah, eso no es nada. You know how that goes in Puerto Rican. Eso no es nada. That's nothing. It doesn't matter what you do. You're going to get shot down, and that brought another aspect of my life, right? Because I would think I would be great at something, right? But why do the people that love me don't think I am? And in Puerto Rican culture, I always found that they'll embrace you when you're doing bad, and they'll hold your back. But as soon as you start spreading your wings, they put
Mm.
weights on you. And I don't mean that all Puerto Rican culture, but I grew up seeing that. I'm not saying that about everybody, or coming in a way to be offensive about my own culture, but it always seemed to me that when that happened, and then that ties back to being against me, right? I was told by one side of the spectrum that I'm great at something, and then to a closer side of my spectrum, I was told that I wasn't anything. So when I was criticized, I took it tenfold. I took it to a way that I shouldn't have. Remember, and I'll pull back a story a long time ago, and I won't go into detail, but you and me got in an argument about something you were being honest with, and I almost destroyed my own car.
Yeah, and I actually won't expound too much on that, but um, not only did he almost destroy his car, he could have destroyed me. He actually got mad because he wanted me to get off the car and fight, and I was like, I'm not gonna fight you. I don't remember this, and you're like, why? I'm like, because you're gonna beat me up, and I think that made you. That made you
No, what made
mad.
is y'all locked the doors and wouldn't let me in the car.
Was Omar driving?
Omar was driving.
And he's like, "Don't get off, Jimmy. Don't get off." I was like, "Bro, first of all, my ego is not that big. I'm not gonna get off because I knew Derek would put hands on me and it'd be done." But I will say this, you said you mentioned this about our community. I think the beautiful thing about our community is that we're always gonna hold you, regardless. Like the beautiful thing about our community, we're always gonna hold you. I think because our community naturally, bro, we'll have to unpack this on another talk, has so much trauma within it. We're the same people who love and hug you can also punch you that hard, only because we sometimes don't know our boundaries. We love hard and we hate hard, right?
Mm.
It's something that what we call passion. Está en la sangre. And we laugh, we love, we eat good. We think about this. Think about this. Here it is, an island, and something I've struggled with. I struggle with food because I love it so much that I don't know sometimes my boundaries. And obviously, I'm hoping this year things will change. And a lot of times, education. I go to Puerto Rico and I will have people say, "Mira, Jimmy, te puesto gordo," which is true. I'm fat. But then be like, "Mira, siéntate, come." I'm like, "No, que pira come." And then when I serve you, like, "Bro, you just told me I was fat, and then you're gonna feed me, and I'm gonna eat," right? So I think naturally we also have to understand that our parents also came from some type of trauma. Their parents also came from some type of trauma. And it's, as I think you and I would both agree, I take our responsibilities for my decisions, but they are led from some type of trauma. I always think in the negative. I'm always thinking negative. You mentioned, the Puerto Rican uncles, and I'm half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, but I was raised primarily with my Puerto Rican side. And in the Latino culture, I've seen it even in church when I've gone to primarily Central American, Mexican members of the church. Everything's always in the negative, right? And I think I shared this with you once, where I would tell my wife, joking around, I would say, "Babe, why don't you love me?" I'm always questioning her, "Hey, why don't you love me?" And she says, "Why don't you ever ask that in the positive?" I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" She's like, "You never say, 'Babe, why do you love me so much?' Or, 'Babe, how much do you love me?' Or, 'Babe, why do you love me?' It's always, 'Why don't you love me?'" You're putting that negative in there. And I started thinking, like, man, I that actually opened my eyes. I've been married now almost 18 years, and I started thinking, I'm a very negative person. So much that she'll say something like, "Hey, how much you think we're getting paid this week?" And I'm just gonna make up a number, and I'll be like, "Oh, we're gonna get paid $500." And maybe I know that I'm actually gonna get paid more, but I always think negative. "Oh, they'll probably mess up on my hours or whatever." I'm always thinking negative, and I aim low. And she's the opposite. She aims high, right? She aims high, so it evens out. But I started asking myself, why do I think in the negative? And I think you mentioned it's because of that.
Well, it's funny you say that because there's a saying that goes around my house that I started, and actually everybody says it, even my 7-year-old. And I was passing my wife, and I say, "You never love me," and I'm joking, right? But it becomes a thing. It got to the point that I said it so much that my 7-year-old, when he asks my wife for something and she says, "No, not now," or "You can't do it now," his first thing he goes is, "Mom, you never love me." And we do it as a joke, but that is transcending to what we learned in our life, right? That everything had to be negative, and we had to overcome more because of that. You see, other people have gone through more, but when you have a mental back, which is something that we grew up with, it's almost double challenging to you. You know what I mean?
I mean, I've seen people address things in a more chill way, and they got out of that situation. And I'm like, well, my first reaction was to react to. And I know one of the things, I have a really good friend of mine. One time we're having a conversation. He says, "The problem is, Jimmy, you're always in the defense." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I say something, you immediately have a comeback." And it could be joking around. He may be like, "Hey, bro, you need to shave," and immediately, like, "Yeah, well, you short." And it's like, you always have a comeback. And it ain't that serious. He's like, "You're always throwing jabs," is what he was saying. "You're always throwing jabs." And I stopped and I started thinking, and my wife's like, "Actually, that's true. Even when we argue, you're always ready to respond before you finish listening." And I started asking myself, I wonder why. I impact my life and growing up. And once again, because I couldn't fight, I wasn't the one who was playing sports or the fast runner. I had to make sure that my mouth was going to be able to get me through. You're gonna make fun of me, you could beat me up, but I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna destroy you, make you look stupid if I need to. And then I took that into my marriage. I took that into my friendship, and it's actually a bad quality to have. It's fun whenever we're having a good time and it's funny and you freestyling, but in real life situations, I realize that the people that I love the most and trust the most, it's easy for me to react due to trauma.